So while Ireland full team are playing South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, or whatever they're playing during the November window, send your little XV off to France or whatever, if you can, if there's squads available. That's when you do them. You can't do it during URC season. When we see how competitive URC is coming, like Munster are in big trouble at the moment. They might not make Champions Cup next year.
Oh, man,
that is devastating for the province.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby together with Bank of Ireland. It's actually Halloween today, so happy Halloween. And I'm joined by my 2 old friends, Lindsay, Peat and Jason Hennessy. Welcome back, guys. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. No, I can't complain. I was actually at Cork Jazz over the weekend, so you probably hear a bit of raspiness in my voice. So I was singing a bit of jazz on Cork.
Well, listen, I was going to say, yeah, the raspy voice, you fit in well. Enjoyable weekend?
It was great, yeah. Cork Jazz is one of the best weekends of the year. Have you ever been?
I haven't, but we were just talking before the show, and Jason said he has had some of the best weekends down there.
Yeah, it's great crack. It's something I remember, I think the last time I went was just before COVID. I remember saying to myself, as soon as COVID is back, I'll have to go. Like, I didn't go this year, but it's on my list now to go back next year, because it's a fantastic weekend for anyone that hasn't been.
The funny thing is you actually be lucky to find jazz when you're down there, because it's just a piss up in a pub basically.
Well, we are Irish as it is. It's just
yeah.
little headings that was just for different reasons. It's just piss up, but under different umbrellas.
Yeah. Stereotypical Irish. How was your weekend, Lindsay? Were you playing rugby?
No, we had a weekend off, thankfully, so just caught up with some friends, watched the Katie Taylor fight, so congratulations.
Yeah, shout out to Katie
her.
Taylor. Yeah. Unbeatable.
So, unbeatable. She just played long, but her opponent was good. She had a long reach, obviously gave her a bit of hassle, but as Katie said herself, she boxed smartly and just did what she had to do, and unanimous vote for the 3 judges, so she keeps on rolling. So I know she was big on her post-fight interview, saying she wants it back in Ireland, as was Eddie Hearn, so hopefully you might see her back in Croke Park. So yeah, that would be sellout. I think it'd be just cracking, and as she said, it'd be just the epitome of her career, and I think for women's boxing in general. So yeah, the powers that be, if you're listening, make it happen.
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Katie Taylor is the best athlete to come out of Ireland, full stop, ever.
100%. Well, she's up there. I mean, for such a small country, I don't think we're credited with how many great athletes, including yourself, that we've produced, like, genuinely. But I think for what she's done for boxing and getting it into the Olympics, and then, turning pro back in 2016, and like Madison Square Garden in her last bout, like
she's undisputed, like undefeated in the world. Like she's done the best she can in the sport. Like I just don't think there's anyone that equals that in their profession.
No, and I think like even the last, like, I think we don't credit. I think it was is it 20 years that the last time we won Olympic gold in the men's section? Not to make it about sexes, but I think just to show the gravity of or the enormity of what she's actually done is huge. And I think hopefully now Serrano might be the opponent that we're looking forward to. So I think it's back in her camp now, and they're kind of playing this mind game now, so watch this space. But look, hats off to her. She's an absolute credit.
We'll try and get her playing rugby at some stage, maybe.
Yeah.
Jason, how are you? How was your weekend?
Good. I had a quiet weekend, so I had my Halloween fancy dress last weekend, and so I'm still have a small bit of a Wolverine beard here, so don't make fun of that too much. So I was a lot worse. It was down the middle and the whole top off and the white tank top and stuff, so almost grown back.
Can we put a picture on the show? Have you got a picture first?
I might put it. We might put it in a post of my Wolverine costume, but good crack. But,
I think we should.
I think back to the Katie Taylor thing, sorry, I just wanted to add one there. I think with something like that, right, when someone reaches those levels and gets so good, I don't think you were going to realise how big an athlete she was for us until she's retired.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you just live it and you enjoy it and you don't make those comparisons. It's unfair on her. Yeah. Because I think there's more to come from her. She's only going to get better. Yeah. And she seems to be unstoppable at the moment. I think in 5 or 10 years' time when she retires, we'll look back and go, yeah, I think she's probably one of the best, if not the best athlete we've ever produced. And as far as I agree with Greg and agree with yourself, as things stand, it's hard to think in my head anyone else to come near her.
No.
Do you know?
Yeah. Not at all.
So you didn't watch the Jake Paul fight over the weekend, no?
No.
Premier boxing against Anderson Silva.
No.
Good, ear to the dog. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, that's all right.
Let's not give Jake Paul any time.
I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, so we'll actually start talking about a bit of rugby now. Katie Taylor, we love you. I know you're listening, so keep it up.
Jake Paul, not so much.
No.
We're going to actually hear from Ultan Dillane, who's over in La Rochelle, and he's in the Irish second row. Our very own Pat chatted to him a few weeks ago, but we'll get on to that later, because the main topic for this week is Ireland are playing this weekend against South Africa. They're actually playing against the All Blacks 15s on Friday night as well. So exciting times, international rugby back on the TV. What do you think, Lindsay, of the squad that got announced this year?
Well, look, it's been since 2017 since we've had South Africa here. You know, it's a big game, but I think it probably builds on our chat last week and the week before about the emerging Ireland squad and having Ireland A back, and a couple of those lads being in that squad, and again having the All Blacks here, who we've historically now under the thumb now in the last couple of months.
Oh, under the thumb.
Oh, yes, you heard it here.
The All Blacks are listening to
heard
that.
it here.
Under the
Oh
thumb.
God, I'm sorry if we get, that could, hopefully they're not listening.
Of course they're listening. You're joking.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Number one show.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a positive. I think it'll be nice for those lads to get game time who won't be in the squad for Saturday's game. And yeah, I think it's all now about, and we'll get into it, delve deeper about game time and top 50 and the amount of talent we have now. And it's a conundrum. It's a blessing, but probably a conundrum at the same time. So I think it's all around positive. Start the weekend off right.
Yeah, and Mr. Rugby lad Jason Hennessy, it's very interesting to see them pick this kind of Ireland A buffer squad on top of the normal squad. What do you make of that?
I think it's something we talked about that a couple of weeks back with the emerging Ireland squad, and it's something that we've been cribbing and moaning for a long time about bringing that A team back, because we go back to our old pal Darren Cave, depth, so much depth, and we do we can laugh and joke about it, but there is incredible depth when you look at someone like Dave Kilcoyne in that squad. He's got 49 caps. But unfortunately, he's below the pecking order because there's some incredible props ahead of him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for us to have more games for these guys to play international rugby, and we don't want to go into another World Cup where we have 25, maybe 30 players that are there and at the moment. And what if they get injured? What if someone drops out? You need these guys playing regularly. You need them playing international rugby, and we need as much depth as possible in every position.
Yeah.
And it's so huge. If you want to win a World Cup, it's going to be a 31-man squad effort. Is it 31 still?
33,
We brought up 33, sorry.
33, yeah.
Brought up 33. But it's going to be a 33 squad effort. Like, we look back, I mean, I think one of the most famous examples was 2011 when Stephen Donald came in for 2011. So I think they were out to their fourth choice out half that year, New Zealand. He was out fishing before the semi-final and got a phone call going, "Do you want to come in there and play a World Cup final?" You know, and that's the kind of levels that you have to be prepared to go to and have guys.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
maybe Dave Kilcoyne might be out fishing on a boat, like, and get a call. He might not make the squad.
Out
maybe
fishing in
someone
Kilkee or something.
he could be out in Kilkee. You know, you look down the list, like there's guys there who are phenomenal players, and we know their class.
Yeah.
That are in and out. Someone like, I mean, Jacob Stockdale's coming back into the squad now. Jacob Stockdale 3 years ago was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He scored that amazing try against New Zealand. He broke records left, right, and centre. What was it, like something like 11 tries in his first like 12 or 13 games? Where we're like, this guy's unbelievable. Had a really unfortunate time with injury, and now we've forgotten about him. He's like 7th, 8th choice winger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's still there. So we need these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's made his way back into the actual 30-man squad for these games coming up, which is great to see him back. He's been injured for nearly a full season, I think. And hopefully he gets back now, gets a bit of game time. But there's Ireland A panel. There's only a couple of lads in it, and I'll name them out. So Tom Ahern, Diarmuid Barron, Jack Crowley, Shane Daly, all Munster lads. We've Max Deegan, Jamie Osborne, Scott Penny from Leinster, and Roman Stellanoa's in there as well. Then we have Dave Kilcoyne, who you mentioned, and Marty Moore. So it's only a handful of lads. I presume all of them are going to be starting this weekend against All Blacks 15s, and then Lindsay was saying that the rest will be supplemented with the guys that don't play against South Africa. So it's really interesting. And actually, Dave Nucifora sat down with all the meet and press during the week, and he kind of just kept going on about the model of Irish rugby at the moment and how good it is that all these guys are playing. And they kind of touched on the point that when Joe Smith was around, he wanted 3 good players in every position. And Andy Farrell's after kind of extending that to, he wants 50 good players overall. And behind the scenes, they've all sat down and named their top 50 players in Ireland, which would be very interesting. I'd love to see that list, wouldn't you?
God, I think they were just piles of paper. You just like scrap it and go again. I think it's a good, I think it was 40 minutes plus. You know, David Nucifora sat down and answered a lot of tough questions because, you know, with such hype on the emerging squad, it obviously ruffled some of the provinces, you know. And I suppose if you look at Munster now, which we'll go into later in the show, and they'd, 30 players unavailable with injury and everything like that, you can understand naming 50 players. And Ireland have never been in that position. Like we just spoke about Jacob Stockdale. He probably would have been the central figure for our success, and we've had a year and built on the success he was involved in, and yet he was nowhere to be seen. No one mentioned his name. We've Stuart McCluskey who's like shining with Ulster, and he hasn't really shone for us at Ireland because he's never given an opportunity because of the centre pairings that have just again between Ringrose, who's back to his absolute best, Henshaw, Aki. I mean, we're in a very, very fruitful position, but I do think, we could name the 50, but we still now come the summer, or when the World Cup happens, who's going to be fit, who's going to be performing well, I still think it's going to be the hard job for Andy Farrell to keep everyone motivated, and then to even pick your starting 15 that is going to beat every opposition. And we haven't gotten over any quarter-final stage. We've underperformed the last 2 World Cups anyway. Yeah. So I can see his point. I'd hate to be naming the 50, and even in an order as such, to even, pick a 35-man squad that he did for this weekend. Who's going to, play against the All Blacks? But I think we're doing well. I think he spoke about Lancaster going to Racing. He spoke about, obviously, the provinces, probably having some bit of leeway in their own decisions, but also liking the model. And
in fairness, you can't take it from him, Nucifora. He's built some system, some model in the last couple of years. Like, every team's doing well, isn't it? Even the women, the sevens are all doing well.
The women's, the sevens, obviously the men's success in the Sevens World Cup, come from nothing. You were heavily involved in that, and it's testament to the model he has built.
He's kind of flexed on the world as well. He said there's a lot of other nations jealous of us. So I was like, go on, David.
Oh, 100%. And come out of a pandemic still on the right side and performing and keep, the revenue turning over.
Still got 4 provinces that are not in administration.
One of the only unions that's actually upped players' contracts after COVID. So, Nucifora, you ruffled some feathers, but you're doing well, my friend.
Well, he was very confident, wasn't he? And, very, very confident, very just to the point. Like, I suppose you could be offended by his honesty. And we might go into that with maybe women's contracts in ways, but you have to stand by. It's refreshing for someone to be so confident and stand by a model that's working for our little nation. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, we're number 1 in the world now in 15s men's. Yeah. We have sevens came 3rd in the world. The women are smashing it now, and they're definitely going to get into the next World Cup.
Yes,
so it's really, really positive. And he also kind of flexed on the world, saying how good Andy Farrell is, and that they gave him a contract extension to 2025 even before the New Zealand tour, but hadn't announced it. So their confidence in Andy Farrell is through the roof, and he's even touching on the fact that Farrell might get the head coach job for the Lions. What do you make of that?
I absolutely love that. I'm trying to think in my head myself, when is the last time we had an Ireland head coach as head coach of the Lions? I'm trying to think, Pat, have we even had one in the last while? No, we haven't. We've always, and we rarely have that many people involved. Farrell has been involved, but he wasn't. The first year he was involved with the Lions, he wasn't with Ireland. The second year he was. We very rarely does Ireland have a huge amount of coaches with the Lions. Bothers me a small bit, because I think no matter how hard you try as a Lions head coach, if you're head coach of a nation at the time, which you were going to be of one of the 4 nations, you are going to be a little more favourable towards your own players because you know them, you trust them. Hence why Gatlin always went a bit Welsh heavy, regardless of their form.
Of course.
So from an Irish perspective, I think it'd be fantastic because, number one, I do think he's probably the best man for the job at the moment. Maybe who else could you think? I mean, I couldn't see Eddie Jones doing it. I think maybe Steve Bortrick is someone who could definitely do it, but I would put Farrell slightly ahead of him because of his international head coaching experience. And
Farrell's done a Lions tour as well as an assistant coach.
Yeah, he's done an assistant coach. He's done 2 Lions tours, I think. He's done 2. Is he done 3? 2 he's done. 3, I think. 3, actually. He's done 3. So, and even as well, like, straight away from an Irish perspective, we're guaranteed we're probably going to have 10, 11, 12 tours. And everyone knows it's a hell of a lot better tuning into a Lions tour from an Irish perspective when it's filled with Irish players. And is it Australia next time around? So... Should be. I'd love to see it.
When is that? That's
2025.
2025.
2025. So not that long ago. Not that long ago. So we've a lot of rugby coming up over the next couple of years.
We have a World Cup before that as well.
Yeah.
And touching on the World Cup, and there's 50 players that the IRFU mentioned. A lot of lads put their name up to get into the 50, and they said the pecking order changed after the Emerging Ireland tour, and Nucifora said that they're going to try and do it a bit more, get lads down to France, New Zealand, South Africa. And he kind of used this phrase that there was a lot of friction within Ireland and Irish rugby and the provinces and the RFU of creating this tour. But you think it's really positive, Lindsay, didn't you?
Yeah, because I think, we alluded to on our opening episode that, we've a lot of guys that you've mentioned, Max Teague, and you've mentioned Scott Penny. Now, Scott Penny is an absolute try machine. Now, he's not only competing for the number 7 jersey with Josh van der Fleer at Leinster, he's also now competing with him at Ireland, and I think for a guy like that, who's confident, you know, had a great season last season, obviously, again, kind of hampered with injuries. Where do you get this guy game time to see, can he, you know, stand at international level? Like, and we've seen Dan Levy, unfortunately, having to retire through injury. Like, so there was a jersey up for grabs for him. So
another lad is Will Connors.
Like, he's only back from injury, and again, he's like,
he was the man before he got injured. Like,
absolutely. And that, like, it's all well and good for the continuing success of our performance and everything like that. So it's testament to this. It hasn't been a drop because we've lost these players, but how do you get these lads game time to get back in and build their confidence? And I think that's where the emergent tour, plus it kind of puts pressure on. I know there was a question about diversifying from the schools and the school system. Now it works for Leinster, but it's obviously not the right framework for Munster because they don't have enough private schools. The same with kind of Connacht. So it'll put pressure on, excuse me, the provinces to kind of look at how they're recruiting players. And I know Nucifora alluded to that, and he actually said when they look at the women's game and recruiting, it'll probably have a knock-on effect on how they run the men's. And he covered the club game and all that. So I think it's good for those guys to get game time, but I think it'll be nice for the provinces to refresh, and the RFU to refresh how they're recruiting athletes for the game of rugby. And I think that'll be the nice side of it. It mightn't be the nice side for a while because you will have that knock-on effect for the likes of Munster and Connacht when their big guys are gone. But I think and the likes of Jack Crowley. I thought Jack Crowley had an absolutely outstanding game the weekend, and I think that's from confidence and building and getting game time, and he's getting that continuous game time to build and blood himself, and I think that's going to be key. Yeah. So I think it's the swings and roundabouts, and again, the friction. He said himself, it's not about friction, it's about having these difficult conversations, and sometimes you have to force that.
That's it. It's not about, like, there's no point in cribbing and moaning. We need to have a simple discussion about this and figure it out, and that's what the RFU needs to do with the provinces. So the big thing is it has to align with the window. So I would be looking at going forward, if I was to be doing these Ireland XVs and sending them to France, New Zealand, South Africa, I'd be putting them in this window, this autumn window, where there's no URC on. So there's this panel there, right? Look at all the guys who play for Munster, Ulster, Leinster and Connacht the weekend. There's a panel there of another 60 guys, right, that are going to be doing nothing now for the next 3 weeks. Plus your 10 guys that will be involved in this A game. So use that, here's 3 windows. So while Ireland full team are playing South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, or whatever they're playing during the November window, send your little XV off to France or whatever, if you can, if there's squads available. That's when you do them. You can't do it during URC season when we see how competitive URC is coming. Like, Munster are in big trouble at the moment. They might not make Champions Cup next year. Oh, man. That is devastating for the province. So there has to be, as I said, I agree 100% with Boaty that Emerging Ireland, these games, these XVs, they're good for the country. But there is a knock-on effect. But there's ways of, okay, right, how can we do this? So we're minimalising the amount of effect that it has on the provinces while benefiting Ireland. Yeah. And you just have to have those discussions, and it all comes back to this global calendar that we've been talking about for the past decade. At the moment, they've fixed it with the URC. There isn't as many games on, and because everything is kind of slowly getting back to normal with COVID and everything, and now you can use that window. Now there's no URC on during this November window. If it's viable to send your XVs off, do it then.
Yeah, the only issue I think with that is that you send them away in this window when the international games are on, is that the coaches are going to be with the A team and not with the B team that are gone away. So you'll be changing who's interacting with the players. And a big thing that Nucifora said about this Emerging Ireland tour was that it gave them one-on-one time with the Ireland coaches.
Yes.
And like the provinces, this friction thing we're talking about, the provinces are giving out, like, we need these lads playing games in the URC. But Nucifora said that we won't get any more insight into these players seeing them play URC. We need to be hands-on with them, see them playing at international level and how they work, like, in and around the dressing room. You know how important that is, like seeing guys, how they operate, how they train. I know Paul O'Connell was interviewed on the IRFU social media, and he said it was like seeing guys before training, what they do for warm-ups, like chatting them around with a coffee. Yeah. Them things are massive for coaches, like, and that's probably what's put guys into this pecking order. Guys like, there's a load of lads uncapped that got into this team for the weekend or for the next 3 games, like Keane Prendergast, Calvin Nash, Kieran Frawley, Jeremy Lockman, Jimmy O'Brien and Joe McCarthy. They all must have just been putting their hands up as like proper good men down in South Africa. So that's another big element of it. But Nucifora also said that it kind of just, the RFU comes first. And that's the model we have here.
That's fair enough. But could you kill 2 birds with the one stone there, right? And could you have so if these guys have been playing an XV game at the weekends and the other guys are off playing test rugby, could you have, for talk's sake, 70 or 80 players training in the HPC, right? And then use that as an opportunity to bring someone like a John Fogarty and a Dennis Leamy in to coach. And he's getting coaching experience at the international level alongside the coaches. So it's all rubbing off on everyone, the highest level. and we're spreading the highest level around as much as possible. Like, unfortunately, we have to use these tight windows. That's how much, there's so much rugby to be played. We have to, and we can't just go, no, you're gone here for 4 weeks and it's only Irish rugby. We have to work together. So there's an opportunity to get the coaches of tomorrow tuned up to international and test level. Like Dennis Leamy would benefit massively from coaching with the Irish squad.
I think that's a great point.
So would Mike Prendergast. So was John Fogarty. Like, and whoever other coaches that are with Munster, Leinster, Ulster and Connacht, like, they'd all benefit from that. And so would the players. Everyone wins.
Yeah, so like have them all in training together in Blanchardstown or Carton House and then send them off in different places.
Off the Farmer Centre, up in Dublin. So
it's a good idea, yeah.
You know, there's something we could look at.
You can have that one for free, David Nucifora. There you go.
We won't charge you for that suggestion.
Another thing that came out of this press briefing was the substantial pay increases for sevens players and also contracts offered to women's players. So do you want to talk about the women's contracts first?
Yeah, obviously there was a lot of media coverage in it during the week that, a number of players, like a lot of players had refused the contracts. So I think it's just, again, David alluded to it, it's the contracts are about choice. So there's contracts there for players that have been offered them to take them and they can train like athletes and become the best rugby players they want, which is noble, but for some, unfortunately, that choice, depending on what contract they were offered, it just wasn't a viable option.
Do you want to disclose the offers to the women?
Like 3 tiers, so 15, 20 and 30, and they can increase with game, so they get game
bonuses.
And
match
payment
fees.
For match fees, sorry, that was the word, thank you very much. Match fees, bonuses. So you could look at someone on the higher end could make up to probably 43,000, which isn't anything to be snuffed at. But if you're those players who are in a really good time, profession, and you're offered 15, you just can't give up your career. And then obviously, again,
I wouldn't pay rent in Dublin, like, never mind.
Christ, you wouldn't even get
for a year, never mind.
the cost of petrol and tolls alone. If you're going to the HBC and you live southside, you'd be good. You know what I mean? And then you're trying to obviously be your nutrition. Yourself, it's actually, to feed yourself to be a top class athlete is actually so dear.
3, 4, 5 meals a day and the best of ingredients,
Best of ingredients, you're eating all the time, your protein, your supplements, hydration, you name it. So like you're just trying every gimmick possible to give yourself the best chance. Now, again, he kind of said there's a hybrid option. So people will be brought in for Six Nations. Again, they'll be paid for their time, they'll be given match fees, they'll be given bonuses, but it'll be just kind of a block. But again, those players will fall behind because I think if you're not on a contract, you won't be training, before you're kind of brought in for Six Nations. So again, like, don't get me wrong, really, really positive. But I'm not sure for a lot of the players, maybe in specialised positions or we're that, older age bracket or we're in full-time professional jobs that they just, had no choice to give up. It's not financially viable for them. I think that's sad for them after inputting so much time into the programs and developing it, and that's sad. But obviously for those who can take them, congratulations, and I'm sure it'll be disclosed soon enough who got what. But
it's a step. It's a step in the right direction, but not as big a step as we'd hoped, I think, because it's obviously going to be big decisions for the women now. And I was in the system, you've been in the system as well, Lindsay. I think because the sevens has done so well of such little money, it's given David Nucifora an argument in the sense that I played for the sevens for 5 years and the payments it was kind of 4 tiers. You could train for free, you could train for 8 grand, 12 grand or 18 grand, and only the top lads were on 18 grand, so only a handful of us. And we somehow managed as a group of lads to get to the Olympics, a World Cup and a World Series off that. So that now, or if you have this argument, but like, sure, the lads did it. They were all working, training. But like, the thing
That's not a fair way of looking at it.
But the honesty of it was, we all kind of moved back into our family homes, laid on our families, our parents. Families were under a lot of financial stress to keep us going. As you said, feed us, try and get us to a level of world-class Olympic athletes. And we're all getting paid less than minimum wage. Like, and we just pulled it together. But now I think just the lads are now being rewarded, and the sevens lads are gone up. I know there's some that have been offered 30k with the match bonuses as well. So some sevens lads, I presume the sevens women are getting it as well.
They were definitely in the pot of the 43, but I couldn't tell you now who was offered what, and we'll obviously watch the space for that. But definitely the sevens were in the mix. But being their contracts being recalibrated, everything was just recalibrated. So obviously fantastic. And like, how long were you in the program?
I was in there for just over 4 years, and never was I paid more than 18 grand.
do you look back? Because I look back in my career and I'm like, how the hell did you do that, Lindsay? Like, how did you keep all the balls in the air and actually perform? And I would love, that's the only side I look back at now and I say, what levels could I have reached with all that,
pressure taken off you. Yeah.
100%.
If you weren't worried about rent and feeding yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and you have a kid as well.
Yeah. So to be, part of, so many other important areas of your life, and you have to, be present in there, like, it was testament to all my family and everyone who was involved in investing no more than yours. So big shout out to the families who are helping athletes across the,
100%, yeah. And like, but the funny thing is, in perspective, 18 grand was like, I was buzzing with that because I started my career. So I played professional rugby in Ireland, professional in quotation marks now, because it included my academy. And my first contract was 3 grand, then 4 grand, then 6 grand, then went to 12 and then to 18. And because I was like increasing, I was like, oh, this is great. But like in hindsight, I'm like, we were doing it for pittance, like, and my parents got a lot of pressure on them and families got a lot of pressure on them. So it is a step in the right direction, but it's just, you got to kind of manage expectations now. If you're not going to pay these women enough money to leave their careers, you can't expect them to like, to be at the top class, world class level, go up against the likes of England and New Zealand. Would I be right saying that?
Yeah, and that's what you look at now. Like, so maybe our older, more experienced, and again, this is open for correction because I don't know who got offered what, but like, if I'm thinking like, if I was in that position having a career, like I wouldn't have been able to take one at 15. Probably not at any of them really because of how long I'm in my career. But if I'm back in my 20s, that's definitely a great, offer.
Yeah, it's like an unreal part-time job.
100%. Like, so you can kind of, you can look at that stage. But like, if we've a lot of our experienced players not being able to take contracts now and they're walking away, we're talking about a World Cup in 2025. We're really starting at a baseline now as regards experience and really, really young players, which is fine. And we give them that time. But like, we have to now put in such framework that we have to use every opportunity now in these next 4 years to get experience, get test matches, and get them up to the level we need for our women to be qualifying for 2025. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So our experience walks away. And that's what I mean. Do you look back at your 4 years you were there, and 18 grand is great, but do you look back and say, how did I do that?
Oh, completely. I look back, and all of us, like, we bonded as a group of players. We were like, lads, how did we get to the top level in sport in the world off pittance, like? Yeah. And we were just, I think the bitterness just bonded us together.
Yeah, you look like he's gone great. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's had a great culture.
I think we have to factor in as well, like, we're going through a cost of living crisis in the country at the moment. So when you're looking at that upper echelon of the kind of players at their peak and they're 28, 29, 30 years of age, there's no way in hell are you going to walk out of it even a semi-decent job, never mind a good job, to go for 15, 20 grand a year. And then when the country is, I mean, even coming in as an 18-year-old now on that money, you'd be like, move up to Dublin full time and try and survive. Yeah. Forget about it. That's so tough.
And inflation, everything's just so crazy at the moment. You're going to ask someone, like, there's probably nurses and everything inside the extended women's squad. You can't ask them to leave their career.
Nurses, teachers, accountants.
Walking away from proper, like, professional jobs with pensions and the whole lot, and security, and you have that security. I mean, what if you, like, something happens to you, you get a bad injury, or if your form drops and you're out of the Irish team, it's not really secure, is it? Because at least when if you're a nurse or a solicitor or a doctor, you get paid leave and you're out and you'll be back, and you don't have to worry about getting your place back in the team.
No.
You know what I mean? You're back in doing your job as soon as you're ready to do it again. Like, you don't come back in, start prop, like, if you've been out for 6 months.
Oh, 100%.
To fight your way back into the squad, and you might be dropped out of your contract a year later and you're finishing the end of it.
And then you maternity leave on top of that. Do you know, grand with a young squad, not that takes away their choice of if they want to have a family and that's what they're in, but you also have then maybe if women within that squad, that's the option obviously they have, like, is a paid leave or anything like that. So yeah, I think we could be here all day, but I think the other bit is the culture. You know, we talk about culture, and obviously you guys for the Sevens, you know, starting from very little and a new programme in comparison to a country staunch on its 15s. I think if you're, like, the girls will all be on the same money, the same training regime, but different tiers of money. Yeah. Now, I don't know how I'd feel about that. Yeah. Do you know, if I see someone or I feel is lazy or they're not working as hard as me and I'm breaking my ass, you know, on 15, they're on 30, and you're like, here, listen, sweetheart, right? Yeah. You know, you need to be earning your corn here. So I'm not sure how it'll impact overall, but look, it is a step in the right direction. Definitely. And I think, you know, long may continue.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's how we had it in the sevens, and that's the way it still is. It's still tiered. And in fairness to Nucifora, he was honest. He didn't sugarcoat it. He was like, look, we're giving the opportunity, these option to women. If they want to come in and take the contracts, they can. They can't. He was like, that's the way it is. They might fall behind if they don't take it. So you can respect his honesty, but it's, as you said, step in the right direction. But hopefully there's another one coming soon, and to give more contracts to these women. But anyways, to talk about this top 50, just to kind of round it all up with the Irish squad, who would be your guaranteed top 5 players you'd put in the squad? First top 5 in the team sheet.
Do you want to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. Jesus. I'd say number 1, Tyke Furlong. I'd put Furlong ahead of Sexton. I don't know. I just think he's the best tight head the game has ever seen, and he's just phenomenal. So
is that you saying that tight heads are more important than out halves?
Yes.
Nah.
He is.
I just think Tyke Furlong. So I'd say Tyke Furlong, Johnny Sexton. Then I would say Josh van der Fleer, Robbie Henshaw, and Hugo Keenan. That's my 5.
That's a good spine of a team there now.
Yeah.
Go on, Lindsay, your top 5 on the team sheet straight away. Or just 50, whatever they did.
I'd probably go for Furlong as well, because I'm a front row and I know how important our tie head is. They're probably the highest paid contractors, you know. I'll go with Josh van der Fleer. I'm going to go with Gary Ringrose.
Nice.
Oh God, I'll have to put Johnny in there, because I mean he's absolutely, we don't function really without him, which is the sad part. And
so many good players.
I know.
So many good players.
On the wing. Will I give it to a winger? No. I'm going to give it to...
TikTok.
Oh, sorry.
You're under pressure.
I know I am, haven't I?
While you're thinking there, the other person I would throw into the mix is Tyburn. I think he's one of the best players in the world. I'd take out one of the centres. I think, even though I'm a back, I just think forwards are more important on the pitch.
Yeah.
They get that ball for you.
Well, after his performance in that third test against New Zealand, you're just like, this guy has, his soul has left his body and he's playing as 2 men on the pitch, essentially. You know, that's the kind of form he had. Like, it was just like...
So I'd have Tyke Furlong. I'd have either Dan Sheehan or Ronan Kelleher, whoever's fit at the time.
Dan Sheehan's going to get you more tries anyway, with the way he's playing the URC this year.
I'd have Josh van der Fleer, I'd have Johnny Sexton, I'd have Hugo Keenan. That's the spine of my team that was going to control. Everything else is just like, put them in, everyone else can play the ball. Like.
Yeah. I'm going to just be controversial and throw in Caelan Doris.
That's a good one, yeah.
Doris is a good one, yeah.
Doris,
I'll give you that one.
Because I think he can play 6 or 8. I think he's, again, the likes of Byrne can play second row, back row. Our line out, our scrum, our breakdown, I think they're all essential to kind of the areas that we need to work, you know, and get turnovers, and we're good on turnovers. We're, you know, a team who thrive in broken play and open rugby, and, you know, we're thriving in the chaos. So.
And speaking of back rows, for this weekend up against South Africa, name your back 3, or back row first, and then your back 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go Van der Fleer. I'd go actually P. O'Mahony, because I think he's back to his best. I think as a leader, we need him against South Africa. We need someone who's going to bring the game and not shy away. He's kind of that fierce dad who kind of protects them. And I'm going to go with Doris.
Nice. Back row.
Obviously, yeah. Van der Fleer at 7. I'm definitely... Do you know what? It depends on what way you look at it in the second row, and like whether or not you're going to put Byrne in the second row, because Byrne has to go in there somewhere. So...
I thought, if you put Doris at 7 and me...
No, you put Van der Fleer and
I'd put O'Mahony at 6.
O'Mahony 6, sorry, yeah.
Van der Fleer at 7. Caelan Doris at 8. And I'd put Byrne at 4.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I find it very tough. I would obviously have Van der Fleer and said there, I don't know what kind of fitness O'Mahony's at. I'd be a toss-up between O'Mahony and having Byrne in there. And then I'd have that Doris at 8.
Nice.
I don't think Jack Conan is playing his best rugby at the moment.
No, he's quiet.
He's been kind of in and out of the squad, so you want someone who's firing at the moment. But
yeah, he's finding form again.
Yeah.
But I'd have Coombs on the bench now coming in for an 8 and just really finish them off.
It's tough. But I think you have to have O'Mahony and Byrne against Australia for a line out and for a breakdown prowess, 100%, just to get in and like you can't match them physically. But Byrne can match them by getting in and stealing that ball, and O'Mahony can match him in the line-out because he can jump 55 feet into the air.
Boys,
he's just you have to be clever, and like that's the clever way of beating us, instead of just going, let's put our biggest pack up against them, because you're just going to lose all day when you do that.
Yeah, I'd have Byrne in the second row anyway, just to free up back row to bring on another beast. Like, so we have so many options. Just have all the dynamic players around the pitch. Johnny's obviously our starting 10, but who would be your backup 10?
I'd put, well, Farrell will probably play Friday night, so I'm not sure because I know like Carby's out again, isn't he injured? No, he's back in. He's going to pass fitness test. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, he is in the squad. I obviously read that, and he's going to have a late fitness. I don't know. I'd love to see Frawley down the line, but I don't want. I think Carby's better nearly as a fullback. I've seen him. I don't think he's long term for me. He's just had too much time, and he's not really shown at 10. But again, another question, but to the very honest David Nucifora, like they've taken Johnny just very slow, kind of, I suppose, blocks, haven't they, about his future, and he is getting better with time, so. We need lads in there getting time, but probably Frawley they're looking at as the long term. But
yeah, he was actually posed that question in the press briefing as well. News 4 being like, "What's the story with 10s? Johnny can't last forever." And they said, "Have you asked Johnny if he's going to stay on for another year after the World Cup?" And it's all undecided. They're leaving Johnny do whatever he wants to do. He's definitely going to be around for the World Cup, injury pending, obviously. And then News 4 is saying he's really happy with where the 10s are in Ireland, coming up behind him. He said someone needs to put their hand up, in fairness, but he said it's not a problem, and they're all happy out. Like, so we're hoping someone over the next couple of months will put their hand up. I personally think it will be Frawley.
Do you think so?
But we'll see.
I think Crowley's the person to keep an eye on over the next in the longer-ish term, in the next 2 years. I think if he keeps going at the level he's going for the next couple of years, and if he, there's a lot of these guys burst onto the scene and they're class, and you're like, oh, he can go, he can take that next step. If he's capable of taking that next step, he's a guy that could be there in 2 years' time. Yeah. So he's a guy, out of anyone, I keep an eye. I think I would keep an eye on him more so than I keep an eye on someone like Harry Byrne. Not just saying that from a Munster perspective.
No, I think you're right. I don't think they've shown enough really. The Burns, they're definitely solid, but I think Crowley is a really good option. I think if he can get more game time and continue his confidence, and as I said, he had another. I think he just had one miss, obviously the weekend, which would have obviously had a reflection on the scoreline and probably would have got Munster the win they needed. But certainly I think, we've options there, but we need someone to consistently... And it'd be nice for Johnny to be under pressure, even though, as I said, he's performing. But I think we can all kind of have a sigh of relief if, someone stood up in that 10, because at the minute I'm like, who's going to step into your shoes, dude?
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of Crowley and Munster, Munster and Ulster obviously played the weekend in Thomond Park. Ulster came down and they won 15-14. Crowley unfortunately missed that kick at the end. He probably would have been all over the headlines today if he got it, but he had a great game nonetheless. I presume you saw the game. Did you see it, Jason? Were you there at it?
No, I wasn't at it. No, I watched it as I was trying to cover the rest of the URC as well. But very much a game with two halves. First half, very poor. Lots of individual errors. To be honest, I thought Ulster should have been further ahead. They would have been only for that try that was disallowed over that slight knock-on by Doak. Fekitoa very lucky not to see red. I think if you look at it, maybe from out of the 4 or the 5 angles, the red card, there's one angle there. I think the referee was looking to give him the benefit of the doubt, and it was on his side and go, really don't want to send you off. More so, he's trying to find a reason to bring it down to yellow, and I think he tried his hardest and found the slightest reason to bring it down.
What are we saying? I didn't actually catch it live, but didn't Frank Murphy ask to play it at real speed?
Yes. Yeah. He went back and asked him to play it at real speed, but even when you look at it at real speed, it's still his shoulder connects into his chin. Like
it's bad.
It's high force. It's high danger. It's a needless tackle, and to me, it was a red card. And I was like, red card straight away. But second half, it's like very impressed and almost proud of the younger the young lads to come out and play the way they played, because they very nearly won that game, and they were a different side, and a lot of the younger guys stepped up. And look, as I said it on week 1, and some people might give out and say, I was like, don't expect much from Munster this year. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean they're useless, don't bother watching them. What I'm saying is, this is very much a very young team. As I said, we're 30 guys missing. There's guys being drafted in from the academy, left, right and centre. Evan O'Connell coming in there, Paul O'Connell's nephew. He's 6'7", I believe he is. Another big lad, 18 years of age. He's an O'Connell anyway. But like, there's guys being brought in left, right and centre. They're performing. It's going to take time. They're not going to win anything this year. They're going to just really hope that they can qualify for the Champions Cup. But it's good to see these guys coming through. And as I said, look, I know we brought in 3 short-term signings. One of them is John Ryan. I wouldn't really call it. John Ryan's back where he should have been in the first place. Should never have been let go. 2 other guys were brought in, Ollie Morris and Kieran MacDonald, because we're absolutely torn apart with injuries and Irish players and stuff. But
Yeah, I was saying that we're just shy of 30 players unavailable for months. Like 30, that's nearly a full squad. Like, so to go that close to beating Ulster, if the kick goes over, we beat them with a team academy players.
Yeah,
with a young fella, Evan O'Connell, you said Paul O'Connell's nephew playing. 4 uncapped players were in the matchday squad. I actually think Munster are in an okay place. It's just mathematically points have put them at 14th now on the table, but they're actually not in a bad place. I was chatting to Dave Kilcoyne over the weekend, and he's saying within the squad they're all actually pretty positive. All these young fellas are getting game time, and they're not expecting to win the URC at this time, but their performances are going to come when all these players come back, and we saw one of them come back on the weekend. Simon Zebo came off the bench and had a great couple of minutes.
Yeah, he did.
Incredible impact. Lovely little pass. Like, I mean, he ran that line, he drew him out, and it was just a lovely little pop over. And I know Shane Daly nearly dropped this.
Everyone was like, yeah.
Zebo whipped it at him over the top. Like, he didn't catch it.
But it was lovely. I mean, that's the kind of X factor someone like Simon Zebo brings. Yeah. And especially like at a younger team to come in, he's going to settle guys. He can do things like that. That's why we always loved him. That's why he's always been such an entertaining player. He does these little flashes of brilliance.
Yeah, but the big thing for like Simon Zebo, I don't know him personally, but you know what I've read about him, and obviously what I see on his social media, and what a good guy is. Like, he's serious about his rugby, but he's very positive. So I think even to have that personality in with those young guys, getting those first starts, he'll just bring that bit of calm. And like, to be honest, in the first half it was naivety. Did you not think, like, I mean, they didn't for one of the line-out maul tries for Tom Stewart's try, they didn't challenge in the line-out, and I thought,
they didn't challenge for most of the game for the line-out. So I think they were were they afraid of, like, Ulster's maul is pretty impressive, and they just kind of stood off them, and they were like, is it naivety? Is it kind of like giving Ulster too much respect? Well,
I thought it was a combination of both, because like Dogbo was there, and I'm like, you're a big man. Get in and take away the two lifters. I lift in the line out. The last thing you want is some absolute train coming at you to break that link, and then you can sack your jumper. Like, I was like, do something. You're either challenging in the line out, or you're staying down and you're smashing them. And you have to divide them. But I was like, you're after letting them, form their maul, and you're not stopping that. You're not stopping that. And
you've an issue there as well, who's calling the line out then as well. Like, you've got 2 young guys in there and a Dogbo and Hearn. I think Jack, I don't know who's calling the line outs. I'm not sure. So you have an issue there. That was something that was brought up at the start of the game. It's like, who's calling the line outs?
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
Your coaching staff, who's doing the review on Ulster and who their jumpers are, you know what I mean? So that's kind of, the coaching staff need to probably take more responsibility and have just a basic game plan and let the lads build in. But like, once they got that kind of fixed, and the second half came along, I think nerves went out the window and they kind of settled. And it's those moments that they learn. They're harsh learnings, but they're learnings as forwards that you just won't let happen again. And it's nice. It's not nice reviewing, but it's really, really good learnings. And I agree with you. I think grand 30 players out, not ideal. We're talking about the positivities of a good few Munster guys in the Ireland A, but that's has an impact now on a Munster team struggling to get wins and consistency together. But the other bit is the hand is forced to blood the new guys and get them playing.
Let's not take away from Ulster as well. Like, from an Ulster perspective, like, Ulster played well. I mean, like, shout out to Marty Moore playing the full 80 minutes. He's in the A squad. There's a guy who I think could be an important part of the jigsaw for us going forward. I know you've got Andrew Porter who can slide in a tight head, but like, realistically, if you want him starting, and you want Farrell. You want him starting loose, you want Farrell on a tight head, right? You don't want to have to switch Keane Ely or someone in there. He is a proper out and out tight head, right? I know John Ryan is back now, but Finlay Bealham, I think a fit and form Marty Moore is better than Finlay Bealham. I think when he left for Wasp all those years ago, I was very surprised, because there was a time, it was before Furlong and I'm wrong, we were like, this is our saviour, this is our next big tight head. And he's a class guy who just, his career didn't quite pan out the way it should have panned out. But he's a really good player.
He is, and he's a ball player. And we're talking about backup 10s, and like, we actually don't have a backup tight head consistently.
Not really, no, because you've got Finlay Bealham's in there, like, and kind of in and out, and John Ryan was in and out for a while. Not really, no. Like, I mean, I'd personally, like, I'd love to see Marty Moore fit and playing well and have him as our backup for the World Cup. I prefer Marty Moore to come off. I think he's a better scrummager. He's better around the pitch. But like, Marty Moore has had a kind of so a couple of seasons, but he's starting to find his form again and get back to the level we know he can reach. I thought it was great to see James Hume getting on the score sheet.
Nice try as well.
Nice try. He's in the A squad as well. There's a guy probably got injured at the worst possible time, because I think he probably would have been in the actual main squad had he not been injured for the last while.
He's
think Luke
unfortunate
Marsh
to miss out in that top
yeah,
squad.
it's because he's just coming back in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He only came back in last week, wasn't it? That was his first game
He was
back.
injured for a couple of weeks.
So that's a good thing. I think Luke Marshall's playing some great rugby this year as well. There's a guy I think we should keep an eye on as well. I know there's a lot of depth in that in the centre at the moment. Doak is still playing really well. Jordy Murphy got drafted in the last minute, had a great game.
Yeah, he got a
he
score
wasn't
sheet.
even, he wasn't even supposed to be starting. He got come in and he got the first try, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He got a good try.
So,
and Tom Stewart also got a try, and
Yeah.
Dwayne Vermeulen was playing and stuff. So Ulster were fairly stacked, and for a team of young fellas playing for Munster to go 1 point in a defeat, it's not bad. And we also not only was it young fellas, we 3 short-term signings now into the Munster squad. One of them being John Ryan, who played on the weekend, who came from Wasps, who are actually now officially relegated. Am I right in saying that? Wasps are
Were they
officially
relegated or just suspended? I know they're suspended from the league for the rest of the year. I'm not sure if they're relegated. It could be.
Yeah, no, that's it. They're definitely gone down to the championship.
100% gone championship.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Munster
they're both gone.
which is very sad for just rugby as a whole. Which is a lesson, I suppose, to all clubs out there. Don't let your finances get out of control, or you'll be gone. We got Ollie Morris from Worcester, and we got Locke Kieran McDonald, as you said, who was with Glasgow and Wasps. So, what do you think of these signings coming in? They're obviously needed in Munster.
They're needed. I think that we'll just have to see how they go. I mean, they're lads who, obviously, John Ryan is nice to have him back, not under the circumstances.
Should never have left in the first place.
No.
Hopefully he's going to get rewarded with a contract at the end of the year, because said he's a nice guy. He just bought a house in Limerick before he got called into the office in January and told he was being released. And as I said in this show time and time again, I think he's a far superior tight end prop to Stephen Archer. I really do. And I'm not
You've
just saying
never said that before.
Yeah, I just think he's. I mean, John Ryan was our backup tight end in the Irish squad for how many years? For so long. He's a great player. Is he 31? Is all he is?
He's class.
That's young for a prop. So I think that was probably my pal Johan's decision more than anything. I think so. It was just strange to see him go in the first place. And I think the other 2 guys are very much just stopgaps. I think it's probably good that they're relatively unknown names. We're not going to bring in superstars in. They're relatively unknown names that are just there to fill a gap while we've got injuries.
Exactly, yeah. It's good to pull these fellas in, as we have so many injuries, and hopefully our top lads will come back in towards the end of the season. But what do you think we'll see from Munster for the rest of the season? What would be the game plan? Obviously, Champions Cup is probably a bit precarious at the moment for them. What do you think?
I think I'd concentrate on continue to blood the young lads in, even when you maybe get injuries back, just continue to blood them. But obviously Champions Cup is where you need your experienced players back, and probably keeping them safe and sound for that, and really give that competition a rattle, because I think they just need to stay in that financially, and it's too big a club to not be involved. So
what do you think, Jason? Hopes for Munster for the rest of the season?
That has to be the minimum goal. I think when it comes to the actual competing in the Champions Cup itself this year, I think that will take care of itself. I think there's something about Munster. It's always been the way when we play in Europe, home or away, when we have our squad there, they always show up and they will give themselves a good account of themselves. They'll probably end up getting to a last 16 or a quarter final. It's just in their DNA. And it just is. Even when we're not playing well, we do well in the Champions Cup. It's just Munster and the fans and all the cities in the province just kind of come together as one for the Champions Cup. Not worried about that, but I am worried about. I want to keep these young guys playing, and I want to look towards the future. And I do think this is very much a transitionary period, and we're very unfortunate with injuries. But we really have to make sure that these little games where it's only a point or two, you got to flip a few of those results along the way, because if Munster don't make Champions Cup, I remember the last time before there was a time where if you finished a certain amount in a certain group, you dropped down to it, and we dropped down to it was called the Amlin Challenge Cup then, and we dropped down and played Harlequins. Remember, Harlequins hammered us in the quarter final or semi final in Thomond Park. But it was so strange, watching and just no disrespect to the Challenge Cup, but as Munster, to tune in and watch Munster playing in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, Munster is supposed to be in the top one.
If we're in the Challenge Cup next year, it's just, it's not good.
I'm hoping that this will be clipped now in a couple of months and we'll look back in it, but I'm saying I think something's going to happen. All these guys will come back from Munster, all the lads have been injured, and Munster will end up getting to a semi-final or final of a Champions Cup, maybe even winning the things. All these young fellas will be sitting on the bench with game time behind their belt, and the top fellas will be playing, and obviously URC is probably falling down a bit for the Munster, but Champions Cup is still there, so you never know. Watch my words. Munster in the Champions
I want
Cup.
this to happen for you, because your level of happiness has just gone through the roof here. Your little smiley gorgeous face. Come on,
I'm
Munster.
optimistic.
It's like, sure, look at Liverpool Liverpool in the soccer. You know, I mean,
Don't talk to me. 2-1 against Leeds.
But they're shocking in Premier League at the moment. But like something about the Champions League for them, and when they play Champions League, they're a different team. Munster are like that in Europe.
It's a different mindset when Munster in the Champions Cup. So mark my words, I said it. It's out there.
Some teams are made for Europe. Europe and drama days.
Europe, yeah. But anyway, another team, Irish team that we want to talk about is Connacht. They had another good win on the weekend. But before we get into that, also Leinster got a win on the weekend. Our very own producer Pat was over in La Rochelle for Rugby Joe's A Season with Series, and he caught up with Ultan Dillane, who plays with La Rochelle over there, and obviously previously Ireland. So let's check that out.
Last time me and you spoke with each other, I think we've done a few things for Ireland and stuff like that as well, but like over in Galway and stuff. And what kind of made your mind up you were going to kind of take the trip over here?
Yeah, well, I suppose it was my mum mentioned it to me, and it was a few years ago. She mentioned how she also would have loved to see me go to France at some stage in my career, and it was just kind of, I suppose it was just a mix of things. I thought, first of all, not everyone gets an opportunity to come here, so if you get a chance, it's worth considering. And I think I'd achieved a lot in Ireland. I know I still want to achieve more, obviously, but it's not a perfect world. And just the fact that the opportunity came with such a good squad, such a good coaching setup, and my family were all behind it. I was kind of like, oh well, you know, I've done a lot for Connacht. Connacht isn't in a good place, so I was like, you know, why not go? Why not take the chance?
Yeah.
It hasn't disappointed so far anyway.
And how are you kind of settling in? Like, and who's been good for helping you get settled in, and you know, in these early few weeks? Yeah,
well, having the two Irish coaches, two Irish lads that I've met before in coaches is a nice kind of. Doesn't make it as so much of a culture shock, you know. So they've been great in that regard. But also, like, there's other players, I have other friends that play here in France now as well. So we have a little WhatsApp group, just messaging each other, wishing each other good luck in games, and we've got plans to go visit each other throughout the year. But then also they're meeting my new teammates. A sound bunch of lads. No egos or anything about anyone here, so it's pretty cool.
And then the town itself, like, you know, like I think I was even seeing you guys did a bit of a pre-season hike and stuff like that, and kind of get to kind of experience a bit more of the area. But like, how are you kind of settling into the town, and are people coming up talking to you? Do they know you're a rugby player, that type of stuff? Like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a bit mad over here. Everyone's so passionate about it. Even like. The stat about the grounds, how they've been sold out for something like over 70 games in a row. So it's pretty cool atmosphere here. But everyone's real sound and humble about it as well. You're not getting harassed or anything, you know, about town, and it's a real chilled kind of vibe around the place. So it's been a really cool experience so far.
And then for yourself, like was there kind of I was kind of even thinking, with Ireland, do you kind of know in a way that, like, you know, Johnny was almost like the exception to the rule, but do you kind of know in a way that, like, you might have to sacrifice that in a way to kind of come over here, or is it just a matter of, like, even with your mum, was it like a promise you made, I'm going to come over and give this a crack for a couple of years? Like,
no, I think with the pull to go to France eventually was kind of like, it was another one of my kind of rugby goals and dreams and all that, you know, But no, I suppose on the Ireland front, yeah, you kind of, you know that almost immediately when you decide to go, that's it. You're cutting ties with that other with Ireland, you know. So it's a tough one to do, but it's what you have to do, I suppose, if you decide to go. So it's not an easy thing to do, but you at least it's not like you're not talking to any of the coaches or anything before. There's plenty of communication. You get to chat to the coaches and all that, and I suppose hopefully they're understanding about it.
And like, what was the kind of talk like in pre-season as well? Because like you've come to a side that like got to 2 finals the previous season, you know, got to the semis, let's say, in the top 14, and then won Europe as well. Like, so it's like there's big expectations there as well. But then is there that kind of talk of like respect everyone, fear no one as well? Yeah,
pretty much, I suppose. It's a case that we have achieved. They have achieved good things. We've achieved good things here, but it restarts at 0 now, and in the top 14, every club are going to have a target on our backs. So it's not like there's no point in staying in the glories of last season. It's a complete reset, except nearly a tougher one because every team's looking to outdo you. Especially they know it's a bit of a famed ground at home, so they're trying to undo us at home almost every time. So it's a big challenge, but a very enjoyable one.
Yeah, I know you've started the season really well now, but I was kind of thinking about like you had those talks, had that decision to make. How big of a factor was like Rog then in kind of making that decision to come over? Like, do you remember having chats with him about before the move was made and the decision was made?
Yeah, no, I did. I had a few conversations with him. It was more I suppose the biggest pull to me was that I would still have had an Irish kind of coaching influence here, and it wouldn't be as much of a change. I don't know that in that sense. Was there a thought that it put a bit less pressure on me, knowing what I'd come from, and but it was just I just really looked forward to having Irish coaches, to go from one Irish coaching setup to nearly another. I didn't want to change it too much, but it was also knowing I'd be going to under Donica Ryan's wing, from having played with him, and so at least I had a friend in him, and I wanted to learn from him as well through coming here. So it was so there were the two kind of things that really interested me in coming here.
I think Rog was sharing the video as well, the Barry's tea, kind of the care package you got from home.
That was phenomenal. No one, I didn't expect that at all. That's the stuff that really warms the heart now. Yeah, I love that.
Great stuff. That show actually is on Rugby Joe. So Pat was lucky enough to go over to Bristol and La Rochelle this year. So we've got a season with Bristol Bears and a season with La Rochelle. You'll find it on Rugby Joe's Instagram and Rugby Joe's TikTok. Really interesting series, and there'll be plenty more of it to come.
Looking forward to watching them. Thanks very much, Pat, for doing that.
My pleasure.
So as we're talking just before, we watched that Connacht got a good win away to Ospreys at Liberty Stadium, 22-19. They actually had a poor start. I think they went 2 tries down straight away, and then they came back through Alex Wotton, Caelan Blade and John Porch got tries. What did you make of the match, Lindsay?
Yeah, well, what a comeback away from home. That's 2 consecutive wins on the trot, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought Alex Wotton's break and Caelan Blade very smart, just base the scrum and finish off a really, really nice break. Actually, David Hawkshaw was good as well. Again, he played in the centre this week, so they're having a nice partnership.
He was very physical, more physical than I thought. Yeah.
First, a kind of small guy in terms of a centre. Yeah,
I always had him
smart.
as skillful, like, but he's also now physical. So.
Physical, yeah.
Build up the Blades try, like he just kind of he could have panicked and could have went for a pop left and right, but he just goes, I'm taking this hit and I'm taking this contact.
Yeah, he did.
Recycled the ball and he took a big hit, but he flattened your man.
Yeah, he flattened him. It was impressive. And then, Blade just, smart, just little dummy and finished it off. So I thought, we talk about Connacht and consistency, and then Carty's skip pass for the...
He's doing that all season. He keeps doing it. Like,
unbelievable.
There's a guy we don't mention enough, and I know he's had his chance in the Ireland team, but he's very much in the Finn Russell mould, the kind of maverick out half.
Yes,
so
he is.
maybe that's why he's not in the Ireland squad. I don't think maybe he fits the bill. I think that's not the kind of style of rugby that Irish rugby plays and what Farrell wants to play. So maybe that's why he's not there. But what a baller.
Pass. Off his left
What a
hand,
baller,
which I would think is his weaker hand if I'm not mistaken, and he just absolutely whips it. And again, at that speed, under such pressure, to whip it and not put it as a forward pass or outshoot its intended target, I just thought it was impressive. So I think they're just building a bit of confidence. And again, John Porch was on the score sheet again and
Great
again.
season.
He's having a great season, and I'm like, Andy Farrell saying, Australia should have another look at him. And I'm like, shh, we only have to wait till 2024 and he could be in an Ireland jersey. Not that we don't, we want to promote over, but
Not a good player.
When guys fit your mould and they're good guys and are essential to not only a province, what could they bring to international level? So I just think, Congratulations, Connacht. It's lovely to see a bit of consistency for them.
Well, as you mentioned there, John Porch is eligible to switch allegiances to Ireland in 2024, and Andy Friend needs to shut his mouth and, and stop trying to send him back to the Wallabies.
Yeah, I'm like, shh.
We're happy to have him here, do a bit of a Mac Hansen job.
Yeah.
As long as you're Irish qualified, we're happy to have you.
Listen, if you're a good guy, come on the show. We'll test you out and we'll give you the seal of approval.
And John Porch is one of the best players in the URC at the moment. Like he's definitely putting his hand up. If he does want to switch allegiances, Jack Harty, as you said, had a great game again. He's just having consistently good games. He actually scored a drop goal in that game.
Yes, put him back on.
To give Connacht a bit of a cushion.
I think the key thing to look at there is the fact that Connacht this season, they're winning these little tight games that are tough games that they would have lost last year. We kept saying that about Connacht, kind of going, Connacht play really good rugby. They're just not consistent and they're losing games they should be winning. Now they're starting to win games that they shouldn't be, that should be losing. So like, you go 12-0 down after 8 minutes against the Ospreys over in Swansea. So, and then to come back you only won the game by 3 points in the end, and Ospreys had lots of chances and they were really fighting, defending for their lives in that last 10 minutes. Yeah. But they grinded out to win. And they did the same thing against Munster as well, and they're getting those wins they would normally have not get, and it's great to see.
Do you know, like the likes of Aki? Do you know, we would have again said, oh God, he's on, whatever, eight match ban, wasn't he? Yeah. He's not there, and I'm like, oh God.
There's no Irish guys yesterday, no Hansen in there, no one in there. There's a lot of guys missing, but like Connacht have got a nice little tasty little squad there. They've nice deck there now because they made some clever little cute signings over the summer.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, Hawkshaw played well at 12. Wooten was back. I think Tom Farrell played as well, didn't he, in the centre? He played really well. A lovely break. He's looking fast. So as you said, guys, Connacht have built a nice squad for them over on the west there. They have their new pitch, they have their new squad, so they push themselves into 12th. But that doesn't really give the whole picture because they're actually only 2 points off 7th.
Yeah. Which is Glasgow.
Yep. I think they're definitely going to push on. 100%.
So they're doing well, yeah. Unfortunately, they're rearranging a pecking order, and Munster probably.
So the Munster loss to them doesn't look as grim, lads, does it now?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And they actually came quite close to Leinster as well. They were only 10 points. I know there was 10-0 against Leinster a few weeks ago, but still within 10
they're
points.
They're an actually infuriating team. Like they're like our Achilles heel with Leinster. Like they attacked our line out. They were solid in the scrum. It was just, they're infuriating. And sure, 75th minute it took Josh Van Veer for a break, and then we finally finished it off. But I mean,
no, they're going to have a good season.
Connacht are doing well. Keep it up, guys. And you just mentioned Leinster there, Lindsay. They won 35-5 away to Scarlets to give Scarlets a good beating. Did you catch it?
Yes. Scarlets were poor. I mean, they had, again, their ill discipline was terrible. Like, they had 2 yellow cards last week against Connacht. In order to, I thought they had 3 now, to be honest, but they had 2 penalty tries to give away, and now the new ruling is with penalty tries an automatic yellow card, so they were down to at one stage 13 men.
Wow.
And I mean, you just, whatever team Leinster about, I mean, you're not really giving yourself a chance, are you, with 2 players down. So Leinster just went about their business. It's a tough place to go away from home, but a good win, 35-7.
35-5, yeah.
Try after 36 seconds, another guy coming out of nowhere. That there's a Chris Cosgrave. Like, I mean, there just seemed to be, it's just an endless line of talent just being rolled out. That was a lovely, if you saw that try, and we'll probably put it in post, beautiful backline move. It was just straight off the training paddock, and his pace then to finish.
Oh, he was
a lovely try. It was just a simple. It's like they were doing a run out before the game, and they were still in training mode. And Scarlets were asleep.
Yeah, Chris Cosgrave is a good guy. Or Chris Cosgrave, sorry. He was in the 7 squad for a while.
Right.
Really agile, really fast. Yeah, he's only a young fella coming out of Leinster schools as well. This conveyor belt of Leinster players coming through. So he's just another guy coming. And Rob Russell had another good game. He scored a try as well. I think Rob Russell did, didn't he?
Another guy who's playing well this season, who's come out of really nowhere again. Just another.
That's 2 tries.
Another talent, 2 and 2, isn't it?
2 tries in 2 games. Yeah, so he's playing really well. And these are just guys that are like unbelievable, and they're nowhere near the Irish squad, but like if it wasn't in Ireland they'd probably be playing for their country.
Like we're talking about 50 top players, like, and now like as we're going through the round, and we're like, oh Jesus, now he could be one to watch, you know what I mean? So it's gas.
And another guy who's put his hand up for international duty is Jason Jenkins. What do you make of that?
I think it's hilarious. I'm sorry, I just think the whole thing is hilarious because so Munster brought him in short-term signing. I don't know if anyone in Leinster, everyone is familiar with the Jenkins story. So our pal Johan brought him into Munster last year as a short-term signing. He wasn't great. Let's be honest, he wasn't great. And when Leinster signed him, then it was a bit of a surprise. Kind of, what do you want him for? And you're like, hold on a second. You know, he kind of fits that mould of a tight head second row that will fill in for those windows where he's needed to to play games for Leinster, and he was like nowhere near the South Africa squad. But he comes in and he plays a blinder for Leinster in the first few rounds, and I was after getting called into the Springboks squad. You couldn't write it. It's just hilarious, the whole thing. But I wish him the best. But I don't think Leinster will be very happy with it. And I remember someone saying this during the week, and to me, I think I wouldn't put it past him because he's a cute little, I won't mention the word, it's Erasmus. He's bringing someone like Jenkins in there, and I think he's bringing him in, and he knows damn well what he's doing, because there's a guy now who's involved in the number one setup in Ireland at the moment, where all our main players are coming from, and he's like, what are you doing for the next 4 weeks? Come on up here.
Pick your
You're
brain.
South African, aren't you? And he'll pick his brain and he'll find out stuff off him. And he's also going to be straight in now, and he get called up, and he's going to be there right before the South Africa game, and he's already been with Munster, and Brassy is, I think that's what makes him the best director of rugby in the world.
He's really cute.
Not just his coaching, it's what he does on and off the pitch, and you'll see that in his documentaries. There's actually a Brassy documentary coming out soon. Cannot wait for that. That is going to be
gold.
Absolutely incredible, based on how good Chasing the Sun was, based on how good he was in the Lions documentary as well, and just just follow him on Twitter for a day. So
I was just going to ask, do you think that'll be...
There's going to be so much in it. I just can't
Jenkins
wait.
filling out the Google Docs of questions about Ireland
100%.
on his Twitter.
Rassie Erasmus knows what he's doing. He's no fool.
He's a good guy. He knows how to get the job done. So Leinster obviously got that win. They're 7 point clear at the top now. Ulster being in second place, chasing them down, heading into this test window. But I can't see Leinster being caught at all. And the rest of the URC, Glasgow hammered Treviso 37-0 with 6 tries. Poor Benetton Treviso. Good win for Glasgow.
A couple of really good tries in that. For Liano's try in for the number 8, the new Tonga guy who came in. He a dummy pass, and he ran the length of the pitch, and the Argentinian Cancellieri scored 2 absolute crackers in that game. So that was actually a really good game.
It was a great game. And Rufus McLean had a funny try this weekend as well. Ball went through his legs. He thought he messed it up, but he actually got the try. I presume we'll put it in there. The video is very good. The Stormers are up to 4th after a 31-22 victory. Who else played?
That was a cracking game. Not only for the commentary, but the rugby was good.
Yeah, that was a really very physical game. Lions kind of went. They were 21-10 up at one stage.
Yeah, with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, Stormers came back at this. Blumentins, I don't sorry if I pronounce his name right. The South African fans will help me. Clayton Blumentins scored. His line is one of the. If you go back, I'm sure we put this in post back because it's such a good try. That's the kind of try that got him back into it within 60 something minutes on the clock. And the line is so good, he's off camera, you can't even see him on the screen. Yeah. And you just you're seeing a couple of phases, and all of a sudden you see and he's just carves literally like a knife through butter. Yeah. And that was a good game. There was another big incident in that game early on in the first half. Duplessis, there's a quick penalty from the Stormers, and Duplessis comes in with this absolutely pre-professional rugby 1997 kind of 1996 kind of shoulder into touch, and he absolutely levels him and gets away with just a penalty. Don't know how he got away with that. It was absolutely it's like he was playing a WWE match or something. You're like, you can't do that in professional rugby anymore.
Yeah, the Africans are definitely entertaining us. It was a great game. Obviously, Stormers were up to 4th now with that victory. Other games on the weekend were Dragons won again, actually. Fair play to the Dragons. They're up to 10th in the table. They smoked Zebra 47-7. The Bulls beat the Sharks 40-27, another South African derby there. Marcel Corsia making up for his Springboks disappointment not getting selected. Mad Corsia is not in there.
Sorry, that's the game I'm thinking of. Sorry, excuse me. My South African fans will kill me. I was actually talking about the Bulls and the Sharks game. Okay. So the Sharks game was with the Duplessis incident that was on Sunday. Yeah. So I watched so much rugby.
I know, you're like...
So that was the match on Sunday. I remember that match. And then on the Stormers was on Saturday. But no, that was another cracking game. It was really good. And Kutsia, he's gone off to Japan after this game. So that was kind of his swan song, kind of a send-off. He's only gone on a temporary contract over to, what are they called? It's the Steelers. Kobe Steelers, I think, or something like that he's gone over to.
Yeah, he's having a great... That was his 4th try this season, actually. So best luck over in Japan, Marcel. And finally, Edinburgh opened up a gap at 5th in the table with a win of 25-17 over Cardiff. So the URC is getting nice nicely moved around every weekend, and but now it's time for a never stop competing moment of the week. As you mentioned earlier, we're giving a tip of hat to Marty Moore, who played 80 minutes in front row, which isn't easy, as you know, Lindsay.
I've done it very few times. It's very, very hard, the amount of work he'd get through, and especially a physical team against Munster going down to Thomond Park. So, yeah.
Well done, Marty Moore. But unfortunately, we're not giving you the never stop competing moment this week with Bank of Ireland. We're actually giving it to Henko van Wyk for Lions against Stormers. He had a very good try. Fell on the ground, got back up, pushed himself all the way over and got there in the end. So Henko van Wyk, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but you got a never stop competing moment of the week with Bank of Ireland. Very well done, sir.
Congratulations.
And just to kind of wrap it all up, we want to mention the Women's World Cup, which is getting to the semi-final stage now.
Yes.
Would you want to fill us in, Lindsay, what's going on there?
Yeah, probably true to form. The big guns have come out. So France beat Italy. The score doesn't reflect the Italians' performance, and it was their first time in a quarter-final, any Italian team. So congratulations to them on a great tournament. England, jeez, I don't know how they got through the conditions. It was absolutely horrendous rain. Very, very wet pitch, but they just pushed the Australians out of their way. I think Marley Packer had a hat-trick, 55.
She's someone to score tries.
41
scores tries for fun.
She's a fantastic player. Another player getting better. New Zealand again, 55-3 against Wales, and Canada. Thought they were going to be slippery. The USA were a tougher opponent because they'd met each other in the group stages, but they again just overcame the USA. So it'll be New Zealand will play France, I think, and England will play Canada in the semis.
And what do you think in predictions? England, New Zealand into the finals?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, I'm waiting. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with it. I've been kind of waiting for this. And the same with the men's, like other than their Grand Slam last year where they were absolutely near perfection. I haven't seen that kind of performance so far from France. They've kind of been a bit timid. So I'm hoping if we're going to have a performance from them, it's going to be in the semi-final. And I think England, I don't see anyone touching them, but at the minute, on form through the stages and the matches so far, I think it's going to be New Zealand and England. However, if that is the final, it's a repeat of 2017. England obviously came on the wrong side of that, but by God, was it a cracking final. And I'm wondering, with either the pressure of being at home in New Zealand or the pressure of being in England being favourites, I think it's going to be a good one for the mental side of things to see who comes out.
I remember watching that final. I remember being on holidays in, where was I? I was in Spain, and I remember watching that, and it was unbelievable final. But I have a hot take, right? You might agree or disagree with me.
Go for it.
I think for the good of women's rugby, the best thing that could happen out of this whole tournament is England don't win the World Cup. And I'm not just saying that as an Irishman and saying I don't like England.
I think you're right.
I think they're so dominant at the moment. They're winning so many games. They're, what is it now? Is it 26, 27, 28?
I think
they've broken the record anyway for
the
most test wins in the history of rugby in a row. Like, when you're going out putting 85-0, they beat South Africa in their last pool game. 75 or 85-0, whatever it was. Like, it just doesn't really matter. Like, do you know what I mean? And then going out and, like, absolutely hockeying, what you call it then again the weekend, like Australia. Another big nation. It's not like they're going out hockeying alone. It put 80 points past Fiji in the first game. It's just not a good look, I think, because you can't have one team in any sport, male or female, be that dominant. And I think it would just mean so much to have a France or a Canada or a New Zealand win it. I just think it would be better, because you just don't want to see any team dominate that much.
No, and that's where I'd love France to just do something. I nearly want to go over to New Zealand, shake them and say, come on, there's a performance in you, lads. But I think just a quick mention for the English captain, Sarah Hunter, and she, I think, now becomes the most cap player, I'm going to assume ever, but because she's out, surpassed Rocky Clark, who I think was on 135 caps. So am I right with that?
138 now, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the record.
So that's the record.
Wow,
so yeah, just a huge congrats, and to do it, I suppose, in what we speak about a modern era, considering England have been professional now, nearly two plus years. The fact that she has been there, she's definitely 36, 37 maybe. If hopefully I'm not doing her a disservice, but to do that consistently and as captain with the pressure and the players they're producing, I think a huge congrats to you. Sarah Hunter.
Yeah, well done, Sarah Hunter. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Women's World Cup unfolds. It's getting very exciting. I think New Zealand, with the likes of Ruby Tui, Portia Woodman, Harini's in there as well.
And they're the hosts as well. That's going to help, especially when you get to a final and you've got 100%. Your home crowd behind you. That's going to give you that little bit extra.
So they're good, but we'll get through the semi-finals first this weekend and see what happens there. But other than that, guys, that's kind of us for this week. Unfortunately, we have some international rugby to watch this weekend, so next week's podcast will be really entertaining. But thanks very much for your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jason.
guys. Appreciate it.
And of course, a big thank you to Bank of Ireland, proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces. We'll catch you next week, guys. Thanks very much.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.